It's your daily dose of Donna. Happy Monday, y'all. It's Monday, August 14th. It is a gorgeous, beautiful day here in sunny California and Los Angeles. And I am so looking forward to today's show. We have a lot of important stuff to talk about. Those of you that know, you know, we're going to get into all things. And yes, we will be talking Jeff Lewis. So just stick around here for just a few moments. First of all, Ray says on TikTok, cute dress. This is not a dress, but as I always like to do on the YouTube show, I'm going to show you a little outfit check. I feel a little bit like I escaped Woodstock to get here, and I feel like I am a hippie. But no, I am sober. I did drink a Vina CBD happy place last night, and it did put me in a happy place, just being honest. But it's not a dress. I'll show you if you're on YouTube here. It is a jumper. It's pants, but it's braless, which makes me so happy. I feel free. I feel free. Okay. 50% of my live goal on TikTok is completed. Thank you guys so much. I do want to say something before the show really gets in. We get into the show. I've been following, as I'm sure the rest of you have been, I've been following the news in Maui and in Hawaii, and specifically Lahaina, which is just a dream location. It's the home of that huge, beautiful, it's called the banyan tree, Banyan. I apologize if I'm saying it wrong. I have so many pictures growing up near this tree. It is the most gorgeous, huge, insane roots, like bigger than a house tree. That is where the majority of this fire took place. It devastated this town of Lahaina. I have grown up going to Hawaii. I vacationed multiple times with my mom and my sister. My brother-in-law, my sister's husband, is from Maui. We honeymooned there, Lance and I. We honeymooned in Maui and in Kauai, both insanely beautiful. I am so devastated for what's happening there. What a tragedy. The most deadliest wildfire in the history of the United States in an island. Like, what did you even, like, how could you even? A lot of questions. How did it start? I don't want to say anything here because I don't know all the details. I really try not to dive deep in the news because it's devastating sometimes, but you can't escape this. So I 100% am putting portions of today's proceeds towards the show, and I will match whatever that is. I am happy to donate to Maui. So I just need to find the best organization. So let me know in your comments which one you think is the best, where we know we're definitely going to be giving that money towards Maui. You did not miss the Brandy and Julie discussion. Yes, if you were here to talk about Jeff Lewis and all of the things that have gone down this weekend, you're in the right place. But I do want to talk about a few other things in the news before we get into that, because that's going to be the bulk of today. So a lot of you guys are saying be strong. Red Cross, I've heard some things about. I do think Be Strong is a good one. That's Bethenny's. We will talk about Bethenny in just a moment, actually. So my prayers, my thoughts, my money goes out to Maui and to Hawaii in general. And I can't wait to go back because I just love it there. You know, it reminds me, I did get a source tip from someone who works on the show that the crew and the cast of Vanderpump were planning on going to Hawaii. Now, when I first got this tip, I didn't put two and two together, and I posted it on my stories, and everyone was like, this is a horrible time to go to Hawaii. Well, I want to say a couple things. I think that according to my source, they may be shifting it, obviously. But number two, Hawaii is many islands, right? So yes, you should not go to Maui. The island of Maui, right now, all resources need to go towards this, devastation of the fire. And I know Paris Hilton is hanging out in Wailea, which is so interesting. Paris Hilton, Wailea is about, I would say a 20-minute drive from Lahaina. Sorry. So you just have to go down the west coast of Maui. It's where the Grand Wailea Resort is. That's where I honeymooned, that part of Maui. I find it really interesting that Paris Hilton is hanging out there and being photographed in the ocean 10 minutes from the fire. Real weird for me. But there's many other islands in Hawaii, so it's possible they're going to Oahu, which is like Honolulu, total separate island. Kauai, total separate island. And I don't think that Hawaii tourism is saying don't go to any other island. I just think they're saying don't go to Maui. But I could be wrong. And you tell me if I'm wrong. I'm sure some of you will tell me I'm wrong. Chris says, I've heard all of the island's resources are being stretched to help. Definitely, I'm sure. At the same time, tourism is a huge, huge part of the industry in Hawaii. And I'm not really sure 100% if we want to, completely whatever. I don't know. We'll talk about that. We'll find out. You guys let me know. It would be like saying there's a fire in Santa Barbara, which is 2 hours north. So don't come to Los Angeles. But that's not the case, right? It's like a very separate, even though it's close, it's very separate. Okay, so the Islanders, according to you, the Islanders are begging for tourists to stop all trips. Okay. No, I don't believe it. The weirdest comment on today's TikTok is, do I believe Dorit Kemsley is John Benet Ramsey? Oh my God, these sound effects are crazy. Is John Benet Ramsey? That's hysterical. No, I don't believe that. Okay, let's get into the show. We're going to start with a little bit of RHONY. I am not a RHONY recapper. I don't do that, but I will talk to you guys. Yes, don't worry. I'm talking about Jeff Lewis in just a moment, but I have to just cover a couple things. RHONY, watched it last night. You guys, when I tell you this is an insanely enjoyable show. If you have not given it a chance because you're struggling with the idea that it's new people and you're missing the whole, the Sonias and the Ramonas and the Dorindas and the old school, trust me when I tell you this is a breath of fresh, or a fresh of breath, as Teresa says. It's a great show. It is so entertaining. I love how the drama is not high stakes yet. I love how no one's falling off the table drunk. I love how it's like real shit, real behavior, real attitudes. I love this show. The best line of the night was Uba. When Uba says, Uba's my favorite, by the way. I know that I love Aaron. I really do. I love Aaron. I love Jenna. I actually love Sai and Bryn, but Uba is like my all-time fave. She's just so cute and so funny. And they were talking about, Bryn goes, hand jobs are back right now. Do you know that? Which, by the way, are they? You guys tell me. Tell me in the comments, are hand jobs back? So she says, hand jobs are back. And Uba says, and she has an accent and I can't do it, but she goes, if it has a job, I don't want anything to do with it. The second I know there's a job, I don't want to do. Amen, sister. Call it a blow job, a hand job, any of that. Why do we have to work so hard? I mean, isn't our presence the present, if you know what I mean? Okay. It was an amazing, amazing episode. Love it. I think they're adorable. Jessel needs to go to a weekend retreat to learn self-awareness 101. I heard she was on Watch What Happens Live last night and she was actually good. I will go back and watch it. I struggle hard with Jessel. Struggling with that Jessel, but I love everyone else. Okay, let's move on. Bethenny Frankel. Bethenny has been in the news, obviously nonstop, constantly, about the strike, about the union, about all of this stuff with reality TV. She was, of course, in the news big time about Jill Zarin recently and talking about Real Housewives, etc. One thing we can always say about Bethenny is she gets shit done. I've said this from top to bottom, and I'm a big believer. So she's focusing a lot of her efforts right now on Be Strong, which is her organization, her foundation to support natural disasters and help people. I am a big fan of this Bethenny. This is the Bethenny I like. She's talking about it. She's getting those cash cards to people. Big fan of that Bethenny. However, the other side of Bethenny keeps popping out. And Bethenny was in Page 6 this weekend again. And something is happening, you guys. Something is happening on Page 6 because they used to, I thought, be really big Bethenny fans. But now I'm thinking that maybe they're turning a little bit on Bethenny because she was in Page 6 this weekend talking about the fact that they were talking about the fact that 6 months ago or 6 months before she decided to do this, this kind of big attack, I would say, towards Bravo and towards, the way that the Bravo and NBC Universal treat their stars, she pitched a show. Now, we know this about Bethenny. We know that Bethenny is a reality show producer. She wants to produce reality shows. We've heard this about her situation with that bunny Hadaya. You know, if you followed everything I talked about a few weeks ago, how she said that she had a contract with Bethenny. Bethenny just 6 months ago pitched Bravo on a new show of her own, devising that would follow rich Connecticut families, including their children. And one of the people that was part of the show, that was supposed to be part of the show, was Ava Amori, who is an actress and a blogger and an influencer, big Instagram personality, and she is Susan Sarandon's daughter. So she was one of the people on the show, but there was some kind of, according to Page Six, bust up between Frankel and the production company that she was working with. The project was shelved, though Bravo remained theoretically interested in the comings and goings of those residents. And that's what makes me wonder. You know, this is your Jessica Parker moment, you guys. I couldn't help but wonder, is it possible that Bethenny is bitter? I don't know. I'm just saying, is this coming from a place of I want to help reality stars, or is this coming from a place of I am pissed that you're not giving me what I want? Let's just have a conversation, right? No, Chris, it wasn't. You're asking, was this back in 2017 to 19? No, this was 6 months ago. 6 months ago. A lot of people have come out saying that they do not support. Leah Black, who was on Real Houses of Miami, said she does not support this unionization. Why would you ever go and sue people that gave you an opportunity to, expose and grow your business so strongly? I also know from a few different sources that, there's a lot of people out there that she's not taking into consideration in these conversations that actually want to and hope to join forces and aren't be taken into consideration because they're not, because they're not Bethenny. So I don't know. It's just an interesting conversation. All right. I tried to keep you guys going for as long as I possibly could before having to get into the main of the main, but here we are. I'm going to timestamp this for all of you guys because I know you guys like to talk about this. I know that this is what you guys are here for. Let's talk Jeff Lewis. Okay. All of you on TikTok, 125 of you guys live on TikTok. Who here is talking about Jeff Lewis? Who's here for Jeff Lewis? Okay. So, for those of you that don't know what is going on, Jeff Lewis is a former Bravo star, speaking of, from Flipping Out. He currently is the star of his second season. It's not airing yet, but they're shooting the second season right now of Hollywood House Lift for Amazon Freevee. This is a show that basically follows Jeff around in his day-to-day with his radio show. He has a daily serious radio show on Radio Andy called Jeff Lewis Live every morning, Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific time. I listen every day. And then he has this other business where he's an interior designer, a house flipper. He buys homes. He helps renovate them. He's getting hired by celebrities left and right to do it. This is who he is. This is what he does. Okay. So he has a personality like no other. If you know Jeff Lewis, you know he's the king of polarizing personalities. People love him. People love to hate him. People hate to love him. I've always been Team Jeff. You guys know this about me. He can be a jerk. He can say the things. I freaking love Jeff Lewis, okay? I'm a Jeff Lewis fan. I'm a Jeff Lewis stan. I am a chump. All the things. And I listen to his show. I laugh out loud. I love his people. I love his co-hosts. I'm a big fan. Okay. So Jeff has been in the news a little bit lately because he also had that Kyle Richards dust up last week when he was on Watch What Happens Live and made a joke about Kyle Richards being a lesbian on Ozempic, total in Jeff's nature, very funny, but it pissed her off. And he did have to go on an apology tour over the weekend and sent her a huge branch bouquet, and apparently everything's fine. They've texted, they're good. So he finally was out of the news and out of the gossip circle for one day. Meanwhile, a few months ago, he announced in June that he was being given this opportunity to have an entire channel on Sirius Radio. Now, you understand what a big deal that is? Think about who has that. Andy Cohen and Howard Stern. I can't think of anyone off the top of my head, like a radio personality who has their entire own channel. There may be some like political figures out there, but I don't know them. I'm talking about in the entertainment category. Tell me if I'm wrong. You guys tell me. So he got channel 789, which is ridiculous because it's so high up in on the radar, but he is so funny, and he has such a big community of people that like follow him everywhere in the Chumps. It's a little bit of that Howard Stern trajectory, right? Howard Stern has a show that got really popular, and he got his entire network. And then he also has Howard Stern 102. So he has his one channel, which is like the live shows. And then he has a bunch of other shows that are related to his show. Maybe there are people from his show. He has the Whack Pack show. He has the after show, whatever. And then he also has another show where another network where it's just all repeats, whatever. So it's kind of on that same trajectory. And Jeff announced that he was getting this channel. And the first show that was going on this channel were his two dear friends / chumps / co-hosts / comedians originally from that show, The People's Couch, that was on Bravo, Brandy and Julie. I always want to say Brandy. No, it's Brandy Howard, Julie Goldman. Okay. Brandy and Julie are basically, work wives, co-workers. They are not married as much as you guys want them to be, or talk about that. They were on People's Couch, which was a Bravo show. And they're hysterical. Okay, I'm just going to say that. They're hysterical. By the way, Lance, my husband, was a camera guy on People's Couch. Did you know that? Have I told you guys that? He shot that show, but I don't think he did Brandy and Julie because he had to go to their houses, I think he did another couple, Emerson and another guy. So, and he used to come home and be like, I'm dying of laughter all night. Like, he loved shooting that show. Okay, so Brandy and Julie were guest starring as, chumps on Jeff Lewis's show multiple times a month, whenever they could. They also, yes, they're also sometimes on Heather McDonald's show. They also guest on other people's show. I know they were on Kate Casey's show. I know they do a bunch of different podcasts. They also have a Patreon. Dumb Gay Politics, I believe, is their Patreon. And they have a free podcast, I'm pretty sure. Now, I could be wrong a little bit about what their model is because I didn't listen to any of their own stuff. I just know them from Jeff Lewis mostly and from Heather McDonald or whatever, like that world. And when they do guest stars on other thing. And then they got the official Jeff Lewis after show for every single day on this channel 789 at 10 a.m. Pacific. The second that Jeff Lewis live ends, Brandy and Julie start up their show. I'm going to be 100% honest. I didn't listen daily, and I didn't listen for an entire episode. Not because of anything wrong with Brandy and Julie, because of time. I record my show usually around 11 a.m. here, and between 10 and 11, it's just like a weird time for me. I'm doing some work here, or I'm getting ready, showering, whatever. So I'm freezing. I could try to, TikTok is saying I'm freezing. If I'm freezing, come on over to watch the YouTube show or listen to the podcast in a little bit. I'm frozen. Maybe I'll get off of Wi-Fi really fast. Hold on. So, okay. Sorry, guys. Sorry, podcast. I'm going to keep going. There's 150 people. People are very invested in Brandy and Julie. All right, you guys, let me know if this is better. Okay. Apparently, and I am, like I said, I only hear what you guys say in the fan groups, in the Facebook groups, through friends, that Brandy and Julie were starting to be a little bit, there was some open conversation about that they were getting kind of in trouble a little bit, or they were getting, told that they were doing things wrong, or they had to follow a certain procedure. And it felt very much, when I started listening to the show here and there, it did feel a little bit like they were not, I don't know, like they were a little perturbed or maybe annoyed with what was happening, right? And this conversation was just kind of like a consistent conversation on the back end, like on Facebook groups. But Jeff never talked about it. Jeff never really spoke about any drama, but we did get a hearing of it last week when he was in New York. And he was talking to Andy Cohen on one of his shows. And he basically said to Andy, now that I do what you do, basically I run my own channel and I have my own talent, and I'm seeing the challenge a little bit with some of these kinds of personalities, these creative personalities. Now I understand what you're saying, which is basically Jeff's way of saying, I'm getting some pushback from some of my talent, some diva-like behavior, there's some drama, there's some issues. Well, who could it be that he's talking about? Obviously, Brandy and Julie. He didn't have any other shows. He has Brandy and Julie doing the after show. He had Brandy and Julie doing Flipping Out Fridays, which was a weekly show where they were recapping season 1 of Flipping Out, Jeff's original TV show, which I didn't watch or didn't listen to. And then they have Chumps Happy Hour, which is a smattering of chumps. Like, it's always random. So it would be Megan and Doug, or it would be MJ and Joey, or whatever, all these different people every single Friday at 5 p.m. I listened to a couple of them. So obviously, I assume, just like everyone else, that he was talking about Brandy and Julie when he said that he was struggling a little bit with his with his talent. Okay. So we know that there was something about 2 strikes. Brandy and Julie had mentioned a couple times, we have 2 strikes, this is a 2-strike party, et cetera, essentially being really open and honest that they were getting in trouble. But we didn't really know the details. So last week, I'm walking home from yoga. I want to say it's about Thursday or Friday, and I see this tip by my friend Sarah. You know Sarah from Jeff Lewis Obsessed. If you guys are watching, if you guys are on TikTok or at Facebook, you probably have heard of her. She posted something about this idea that there was a podcast called Pink Shade, which is, just another pop culture podcast just like this one. And Brandy and Julie were the guests last week. And Pink Shade released this entire episode, unedited. And apparently there was about 20 minutes of the podcast where Brandy and Julie were explaining very much in detail what was happening with Sirius Radio, all the drama with Sirius Radio. Okay. The host of Pink Shade immediately redacted the podcast, cut out that part, and said, per Julie and Brandy's request, I have decided to remove this. Clearly, they had said things that were a little bit maybe hurtful towards Sirius or towards Jeff or towards someone else. And so this was at the end of last week. Okay. So I'm trying to think of like the best frame of mind here. So the unedited part of the podcast was screen recorded by a genius chump out there and posted it in a Facebook group, which I listened to last night. So remember, they recorded this podcast, I think last week at some point, maybe 2 weeks ago, but pretty, early on in the game. And so they talked very openly about what the drama was. And I'm just going to editorialize one thing, okay? Because I like to just bring you the facts, but I have to bring you a little bit of my opinion. I used to work with Disney, okay? I was always an independent casting director, but I used to work with Disney. I used to work with Nickelodeon. I then worked for a big talent agency. I've worked for a lot of people in this, let's not do drama, Halo Hope. I don't know what's going on, but like you're bringing a lot of drama. Let's not do that. Ugh. Let's like have a like upbeat moment here. Okay. So, and it's also very distracting. Hi guys. So Brandy and Julie talked very openly about their experience. And what I was saying is that I used to work with Disney. I used to work with Nickelodeon. I used to work for agencies. I used to be in the corporate world for a split second. I mean, I'm not a split second, for a long time. And I will tell you, this was you cannot be exactly who you want to be at all times. There is a game to be played, okay? This is the truth. When it comes to corporate behavior and how you act in meetings, in situations, you have to play a game. And that's the truth. And I've had to shut the F up and button my mouth and not say what I really want to say a lot of times in meetings so that I don't get fired, so that I don't become, the problematic person. Because at the end of the day, and this is really the truth, you guys, and this goes for anyone and everyone, entertainment industry or not, you are replaceable. Do you guys hear that? My dryer is having like a panic attack. You are replaceable. I'm replaceable. Everyone is replaceable. And we've seen this over and over as people got canceled left and right since 2020. People are replaceable. You will always find the next person you want to listen to, watch, buy from. So if you want to keep a job and if you want to not be, a challenge, you do have to mind your P's and Q's. That's the truth. So what happened was Brandy and Julie said on this podcast that they were in some meetings. They were a little bit more vague, but they were saying that they were in some meetings and they did act unprofessional when they were told that things that they didn't like, and they did react badly. And that was their first strike. And then their second strike was not listening to the notes that they were given. We didn't get the details. We just got more of a vague overview of everything that happened from Brandy and Julie on this podcast. Okay? They took responsibility for acting a fool. They did say that they're going to try really hard to make it work. They also said that it was really challenging. They said it was really hard working for people who used to be creative or are creative and used to be performers and are now corporate. It made me think they were throwing, in my opinion, Alyssa under the bus. Now, those of you that listen, Alyssa is a producer. She used to be the head producer of Jeff Lewis Live. Lots of people love her. Lots of people don't like her. I like Alyssa. I've met Alyssa, you guys. I've met Alyssa because I was on Amy Phillips' show as a guest 2 times. And Alyssa was still in New York at the time, but I've met her. I like Alyssa. I'm a fan. So don't at me, but you may have to. So, It felt like there was some bitterness. That's from the podcast episode that they recorded probably a week ago that was not out publicly. All right. Now we're moving into the weekend. Yesterday, Julie and Brandy drop a Patreon episode that I have not listened to. I'm not a Patreon member. I will be happily. I'm so interested. But they released an episode that basically said that they didn't name Sirius and they didn't name Jeff. They didn't name any of these people, but they used an entire episode of an analogy talking about a dance studio. And they basically talked about the fact that they weren't able to dance the way they wanted to dance and so on and so forth. Okay. We could tell by the end of yesterday's episode, according to all the Facebook pages and everything else, that Brandy and Julie are no longer working with Sirius. We don't know the details. We don't know anything. This was last night. Lots of Brandy and Julie fans out there. Shout out to you, Brandy and Julie fans. I think they're freaking hilarious. They had a Facebook group popped up, all things Brandy and Julie. Shout out, lots of people. Too many people are immediately coming up with stories. It's definitely Jeff, and it's definitely Brandy and Julie, and it's definitely Alyssa, and it's definitely this, and it's definitely that. The Patreon episode got pulled about an hour after it got released last night. So anyone out there, myself included, who eventually did subscribe. Oh, yes, that's right. I did subscribe late last night because I wanted to get all the juice. It's not even up there. I think it's back up now, so I have to go listen to it. So today, of course, Jeff Lewis comes back on the radio Monday. We're all listening, waiting with bated breath, right, to hear what's going on. And basically he says, after he spends about 30 minutes talking to his guests, his sister-in-law, Carrie Lewis, and Jamie Kennedy, comedian, actor Jamie Kennedy, just kind of shooting the shit for about 30 minutes talking about Jameson's boyfriend, the show Tres Amigas last night, whatever. And then, of course, and we're all like, I'm listening live, which I don't do that often, but I was. And then he gets into it. So he basically says, and Jeff is like, I'm telling you the facts. I'm not giving you my opinion. I'm not giving you my thoughts. I'm just telling you factually what happened. He said that about a year ago, he was given this opportunity and spoken to about this channel 789, his own channel. From there, he said that he would, and remember, I'm doing this all off of memory. I did not take one note. I was in the shower listening. I didn't take one note. So if I mess something up, please don't attack me. Just tell me. So he said that he was approached to do this channel about a year ago. Brandy and Julie, together with Jeff, basically conceptualized the show. So this was a Brandy and Julie baby. It was essentially the idea that we were going to do an after show like Howard Stern does, where we're going to basically come in there. We're going to talk about the show. We're going to have our own, we're going to talk to some of the guests, et cetera, et cetera. This was Brandy and Julie's baby. Jeff completely admits that, agrees with that, and is giving them that. Like, there's no way, there's no part of Jeff that's trying to throw them under the bus in this case. I don't believe, in my opinion. Jeff is also a boss. And when I say that, I don't mean a boss. Like, he's such a boss. I mean, he's literally the boss now, okay? We all have seen Jeff on Flipping Out over the years. We all know the way he is as a boss. Stay on this guy's good side. And if you piss him off, it may not go well. That shouldn't be shocking to anyone, right? Remember, I worked with a Jeff Lewis before. Not Jeff, but I have worked with a Jeff Lewis. Okay. This is what happened, according to Jeff Lewis. They finally start the show mid-June. He's super excited about it. He loves them. He thinks they're talented, funny. He is more than happy to give them this opportunity. He supports them. He calls them the anchor of Channel 789. And I believe Jeff 100% on all of this, by the way. Everything I'm about to tell you, I believe Jeff. Maybe I'm wrong, but I believe Jeff. And I'll tell you why. Because Jeff is the first person to say I acted wrong and I fucked up. And I don't think Jeff is saying any of this because, okay, let me go on. Then what happened was the show wasn't exactly what Sirius had in mind for the show. I guess the show was a guest, so maybe Megan or, MJ or whoever was on the Jeff Lewis show that day would come to the after show and spend the entire hour with Brandy and Julie. While that may have been an amazing show for the listeners, and I'm telling you this because I used to work in the entertainment industry, there's a lot of times where a show does real well. The audience is loving it. Lots of laughter. Guess who's the first to give notes? The network, the studio. See, the way it works in the entertainment industry is there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen. And just because you have an idea that you think is funny, and even if your audience loves it, that may not be what the network and the studio, in this case, Sirius, wanted. And at the end of the day, you need to begrudgingly or annoyingly or frustratingly shut up and listen to your boss. And maybe over time, you can get it to where you can when you are a Howard Stern, when you do have a name, when you are, a big, huge talent. But right now, Brandy and Julie are just starting at this network. And I think in this case, no matter what Sirius says, you suck it up and you do. And that's just my opinion. It may have sucked for them. And I don't think that they maybe felt good about it because they were like, this was our baby and you're taking it away from us. Now you want us to be this live call-in show. So apparently Sirius Radio and Alyssa, it was Jim Thompson, who we all know is Tim Johnson, I think is his actual name. And Alyssa, producer Alyssa, and Jeff and Shane and Kian. Kian is a social media guy. And Brandy and Julie were in this room. And, they had Jim Thompson from Sirius over on their New York office on Zoom. And Jeff said it got so freaking heated that eventually Jim hung up the Zoom. Brandy specifically, Jeff said, acted completely unprofessional, talked back, this and this and that. Guys, I'm going to remind you, you're replaceable. Not Brandy and Julie only, all of us. And you just can't do that. Like, I've seen so many people get fired off of shows, producers, actors, writers, crew, for having an attitude and talking back to their bosses. You just can't. It's just unfortunate, but you can't. You want to, but you can't. So Jim, head of Sirius, hung up the phone. Do you know how bad that must have been for the head of whatever he does at Sirius to hang up the phone? So how embarrassing for Jeff. I'm sorry, but like if I'm bringing in, just say I bring in, Ray and Chris to be on the Daily Dose of Donna network, and then you guys go and yell at my boss. I would be so livid. I'd be embarrassed and livid. And so I see Jeff's side here because ultimately everyone that works for Jeff speaks for Jeff. It's basically you're an extension of Jeff Lewis, right? On Howard Stern, if Baba Booey or any of those guys acted a fool, like that speaks for Howard. Okay. Oh, Jim is the head of Radio Andy. I didn't know if he did something above Radio Andy. Okay. Either way, he's the boss. He's the boss. You don't have to love your boss. You have to listen to your boss. Okay. Cut to. Jeff and Shane go out to, I can't remember, Holloway House, great restaurant here in LA. They go out to Holloway House. They have a 2-hour conversation. And basically they come up with this. Jeff is like, I love you. I want this to work. I brought you here. I want this to work. But you have to meet Sirius in the middle. So let's figure out a way that we're not an entire call-in show, but we're also not an entire guest show. Let's do a partial guest, partial call-in. Let's meet them in the middle. They agree to it. What happens is this last week on the show, Jeff is in New York. And he starts noticing that there's a couple things that go wrong. For example, they have Megan on for all 3 segments, even though they were not supposed to have Megan on for 3 segments. They had gone through the schedule. They decided they were going to do one show, just Julie and Brandy, and one show, a bunch of the other shows, it was just going to be for 2 segments, the guests. Anyway, they ended up having Megan on for 3 segments, almost as like a stick it to you type of thing, because they said that on the show. Something like, do you want to be a rebel, Megan, and stay on? And then I think what really broke the camel's back was they lied about something with Shane. So what happened was in the car, Jeff was in the car with Shane on speaker and Brandy on the phone. Jeff had, Brandy and Julie come in on a Monday. And they say directly to Alyssa, we don't want you on mic. Now, this is tricky. Alyssa is a producer. She was producing the show and she's on mic. This is part of the gig over there in Sirius. I believe for whatever reason, the chemistry, like I said, I wasn't listening to the show every day. So there was clearly a chemistry issue there. They didn't want Alyssa to speak on mic. They told Jeff that. Jeff said, I will talk to Jim. I'll talk to the boss about that and make that his issue. But Julie and Brandy, I guess, came in on Monday and went to Alyssa and said, we don't want you on mic. That's not necessarily like the best way to handle it. Now, Jeff got pissed. He calls Brandy. He's on speaker with Shane, and he says, what is it? Like, why did you go to Alyssa? I told you not to go to Alyssa. And Brandy, I guess, said, well, Shane said we can talk to Alyssa. Well, Shane is in the car. And Shane said, no, I didn't. So now there's a couple things that are going wrong. Then this podcast episode comes out. Jeff gets word of that. And essentially what happened was he said he saw Julie at a birthday party or at Leah Black's party on Saturday night. They had a nice conversation. But ultimately, Jeff said, I don't believe that you are happy doing the show. I don't feel like this is working out for a variety of reasons. I feel like you're disrespecting me by disrespecting them. I feel like intentionally you're not following, the rules, and you're, one strike, 2 strikes. It's not about the fact that they were talking about politics like a lot of you guys think, or maybe it was. Maybe Sirius actually felt that. Maybe it's not about the fact that they were more popular than Jeff. I know that feels like a big reason here, but I guarantee you Jeff wants that channel to work. Like, I don't think Jeff would be upset at all if Sirius was like, wow, this show is doing really, really, really well. They were clearly not down to follow the rules, and they were doing things left and right, I think, that were upsetting Jeff. And Jeff finally told them over the weekend that we are pulling your contract with Sirius. I'm going to get Sirius to release you from your contract. And Jeff said that he came back on the plane, I think on Saturday, or maybe Friday. Maybe this happened on Friday. He came back on the plane and he cried on the plane. And you could hear him talking about it today. I tell you, I have a feeling, and I'm a former casting director. I'm not saying I am, a psychic in any way, but I have a good, strong spidey sense that this was incredibly challenging for Jeff, that he felt like shit the entire time going through it, because you feel like you're in between a rock and a hard place. You need to keep your job. You need to keep this network afloat. You need to not fail on this network. You also don't want to be responsible for people that are making you look bad or that are not kind of going with status quo in the first few weeks. He said, do you think I don't feel like a failure? I have 2 shows that have failed out of 3 shows on my new network. Plus, Julie and Brandy are my close friends. They're friends of the show. I love them. I think they're talented. I think they're amazing. And this is just devastating. Oh, it broke my heart. Because I see everyone's side. I see Brandy and Julie's sides. They are comedians first and foremost. They've been doing this forever, and they're funny as fuck. They have a show, a family, a community all on their own. They don't need Jeff Lewis for their success. They've been doing it, and they will continue to do it. They get booked on cruises and they do shows. They are amazing. I'm a chump, Elizabeth. I'm a chump. Wait, am I a friend or a chump? I'm a chump. Who am I friends with? I'm not friends with any of them. And then I think that that's really what it was. I think that they wanted the Julie Brandy show and called it a Jeff Lewis after show, but maybe it really was more of the Julie and Brandy show. And I think personally that, Jeff is devastated to have to make this decision. I don't think Jeff wanted to do it. I think Jeff was probably a little impulsive in that moment where he's like, I'm pulling the trigger. I'm just breaking the contract. But also he knew that it wasn't going to ever come back, right? Like if he came on to, I'm not a chump. I was just told by Kevin, I'm not a chump. I am not a chump, according to Kevin. Thanks, Kev. So anyway, I am sad for all parties involved. I think it sucks whenever you're in a situation like this. We've all been the boss. We've all been the employee. We've all been having to act a certain way that we don't want to do because we don't want to lose our jobs. And the other way around, it's really a unfortunate situation. Lots of people are taking sides. I'm not taking sides. I'm saying that I love Brandy and Julie and will completely continue to support them. And this was just not a good fit for them. I also love Jeff Lewis and I see why he did what he did. And that's kind of what's happening. So we'll see what is, coming out soon, and I'm sure more and more stuff will happen. Jeff says that he's going to retool the after show and he's going to hopefully have it back on Monday. Who's going to host it? I don't know. Maybe like a Jameson at first, I think. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. I want Jeff Lewis to succeed because I love that show. I love his show so much. It gives me so much joy. So I want it to succeed and not go away. We'll see what happens, you guys. I hope that you learned a lot today. I hope I didn't draw it out too long. I hope I was fair and not entirely, some people are so yuck. We don't need yuckiness here. So many people are going to feel really passionate about this. So I'm sure a lot of you guys are going to disagree with me in my comments, but I really think that at the end of the day for Brandy and Julie, this was probably a good move that they're no longer doing it. Although, because I think that they have enough talent and enough personality and they're established on their own. And I want them to, succeed. And I think they made a lot of fans through Jeff Lewis already that have just found them and really, really love them, So that's what I think. So anyway, shout out to all you Jeff Lewis lovers. I dedicated almost an entire episode to Jeff Lewis and to his community because I love you guys and that's who I am. This is what I want to be watching and talking about all day long. all the time. So thank you so much. Make sure to leave a comment below, subscribe, and tell your friends, post it in the Facebook groups, whatever you want. You guys are the best. Thank you so much. Oh, and I was a number 45. My podcast was number 45 on the TV and film charts all weekend long, right next to Bethenny and Danny Pellegrino and Kate Casey. It was a great weekend for Daily Dose of Donna. Thank you so much for being here. I'll talk to you guys next time. Have a good one.